Today I'm talking to Moroccan academic Bouzaine Zaid, who has just completed a report on the digital transition in broadcasting for the Open Society Institute. Bouzaine, if you could tell me what the difference is between the rural and urban areas of Morocco in terms of the take-up of ICT.
Rural areas in Morocco constitute about 37.1%. We also have a high illiteracy rate, which is of people aged 10 years and up, and that's 43%, and most of those live in rural areas. Now, in terms of access to ICT, the first obstacle to that access is illiteracy, of course. The second one is access to internet broadband. Now, people in rural areas have access to television and radio because they have access to electricity, and because radio and television transcend the limitations of reading and writing, therefore broadcasting remains to be the #1 source of information and entertainment for people living in rural areas.
What is the government's digital strategy in terms of ICT uptake? There
are three main projects that were initiated by a regulatory body like INRT, the Agency for Regulating Telecommunications in Morocco. The three projects, one is called GENI, PACT, and Digital Morocco 1013. The purpose of these two projects is, one, to provide mobile telephony for rural areas, and also to increase access and use of internet by school children. The project started since 2005. They have so far managed to achieve some of the goals set out at the very beginning, but as of 2010, there's still a lot of work to be done for them to reach their objectives.
When was broadcast liberalised, and what has the impact been, particularly broadcast television?
Broadcasting, in 2002, the High Authority of Audiovisual Communication was created, and this is an independent regulatory body that was set out to liberalise the sector. Now, it took them 2 years to propose the Audiovisual Communication Law, which is the legal document that regulates radio and television in Morocco. And since then, the HACA, the High Authority of Audiovisual Communication, have been receiving bids from private people to apply for licenses to operate radio and TV stations. Prior to 2002, the broadcasting system in Morocco existed in a legal void. Basically, TV stations, radio stations were launched via a royal decree. With the exception of 2 radio stations, everything else in the audiovisual sector in Morocco was government-owned, controlled. Since in 2006, that was the first wave of new radio and TV stations. For TV, they still remained government-controlled, government-owned,
and the government has reserved to itself some of the best parts of the commercial.
Yes, they did. They launched a TV on sports, and that's the only national channel on sports. They did one on religion. They also launched one on education and culture, and they launched another one that called the Maghribiya that addresses the Moroccans living abroad. And then in 2006 as well, they also gave licenses to some private operators for radio. So radio has been becoming more, more operated by private businesses, private investors. In 2008, a second wave of licenses were issued, again for TV station. For TV stations, there was one for Amazigh, and Amazigh is it's the largest ethnic group in Morocco. They actually constitute the majority, but they still, culturally speaking, they have been marginalized, and I mean it's the Arab culture that was being put forward. So this Amazigh channel is also state-owned, state-controlled. There were 4 applications, 4 bids for new TV licenses requested by foreign investors, and they were all denied. And the reason the HACA presented is that the quote-unquote the deterioration of the advertising market. For radio stations, a new wave of private radio stations emerged, and right now, out of the 24 radio stations that exist in Morocco, 18 of them are private.
Okay, and what has been the impact of those radio stations on the national discussion?
The radio stations are, with very few exceptions, they're all national, but they have local. I mean, they're national with some regional focus. Like you would have a MFM, for instance, it's national, but there's MFM Sousse, MFM Sais, MFM Gharb, and again, because of the nature of radio, they've managed. I mean, they've managed to open a new space of dialogue and discussions and debates in Moroccan society. Now, like I said at the very beginning, radio transcends the issues of illiteracy. Moroccans prior to this stage, I mean, they had very few people had access to a mic and had access to the airwaves, that access to, you know, to be able to express their views, and radios offered that new space, and I think this is an important contribution. Now, the type of debates and discussions that take place on radio are mainly focused on social issues, which is a good thing, but at the same time, it's either due to auto-censorship or due to pressures from the government that these radio stations are not engaging citizens in talking about politics, and in particular 3 major issues: the monarchy, the Sahara, southern provinces of Morocco, and Islam.
Okay, and internet, I understand, has grown very rapidly. Who is using the internet and for what?
Yes, the internet now is a domain, basically urban youth are the ones using the internet in a very extensively. That's in terms of consumption at the level of consumers. In terms of content production, I mean, of course, through user-generated content, websites and stuff, of course, they're generating content, they're participating. On the other hand, we have the existing broadcasting and print media. They're also using internet for new platforms, for digital, for new platform for their content. The TV stations, radio stations, they all have websites that you can always watch the news online. Most newspapers and magazines have a website, maintain an online presence. There's a few purely online publications, and there are about 5 or 6 that's quite popular. Now, youth have been using this for a variety of reasons. There has been some very interesting cases where youth would post videos young people have been using the internet as a form of social activism. There are a few very interesting cases. A man now we call the sniper of Tirgis. Tirgis is a rural area in the north of Morocco, and this young man who filmed the police taking bribes from drivers, and that video was posted. There have been, it was just very widely circulated, and that led to the arrest of some police because of that. There has been a lot of similar videos being posted with limited effects. The phenomenon we've seen lately is that, for instance, during the parliamentary sessions, the ones that they're broadcast live on television, young people, again, they take clips from those where, of course, when there is something really exciting or interesting, like a parliament member who can't answer a question, or a member of the government who makes a fool of himself or herself, right? That's posted online immediately, and it's very, very easily and widely circulated through Facebook, YouTube, and also it ends up also in online papers, as well as well, purely online, and also in online platforms of existing press. And what's interesting is that you would find commentary articles generated out of that distribution of videos. And this is some interesting phenomenon. Now, the impact of all of this is still limited. Like I said in the beginning, I mean, there's a large portion of Moroccans who live in rural areas and live also in urban areas. 43% of illiteracy for people aged 10 years and up. I mean, that's a large number. And the number one source of the information, again, remains broadcasting, television and radio. So the impact of these will increase as the years, in the next few years for sure, as access becomes more generalized, and as these young people, because in the population of Morocco there's a lot of youth, so in the next few years I would expect the impact to be much more important than it is now.
Thank you very much for talking to us, Bouzaine.